Waverly, thank you City Council for being here. Welcome everybody, staff, visitors. It's great to have everyone. Thank you for everyone who's joining us electronically. Today is Monday, January 27th, 2025. This is a regular study session meeting of the City Council.
It's not.
That's my fault. It's April 28th. Our sake. Our sake. Actually,
Just reading my script. Okay.
Don't put a question mark in front of it.
This is going to be a long day. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2025.
28.
I'm going home. It's 7 o'clock, and believe it or not, this meeting is called to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Council members, you have in front of you an agenda prepared by our city clerk. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passed unanimously. Welcome back to Mr. John Pentecost for your final meeting at the City Council. We've been very glad to have you.
Thank you.
As always, I'll call on you at the end of the meeting for any comments you may have. Now is the time for comments on items that are not currently on the agenda. If you have anything you want to talk about to the City Council that's not on the agenda, the time to rise and speak is now. I see none. That takes us to our study session calendar. Mr. Ron Lenth, would you come and tell us all about the community sharing garden and orchard?
Good evening. I'm Ron Lenth with Bremer, Iowa.
Ron, I'm going to need you to stand by the microphone so that folks at home can hear you. Thank you.
I guess I'm the new guy here. Welcome. I'm Ron Lenth. I'm down with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. And one of my roles is taking care of the Waverly Community Sharing Garden. Some of you folks have been out there, and some we've seen out there quite a bit. It's hard to believe we're starting our 15th growing season since it started. And on behalf of the group that works there, we'd like to thank you for your support. The city of Waverly has been great to work with. You provide the land, the water, mulch, mowing, etc. And a big help also too has been your employee, Paul Cheville, has done excellent for a lot of things. So we tried to make something good out of something bad on land that got ruined in the 2008 flood. It's been a community project. We have been very fortunate to have great volunteers. Ann was one of them, and all her partners with the Waverly Exchange Club. Without them, this wouldn't happen. So for all those hours, we certainly appreciate it. From Iowa State Extension standpoint, I coordinate all the fundraising, the coordination of all volunteers, getting the seeds, the planting, everything but the weather. This is going to be a little challenge this spring compared to last couple of years. We've been very, very fortunate. So what we try to do is we end up handling getting all the seeds, the volunteers, and coordinating that, the planting, the harvesting, delivery, etc. So it's been a great partnership that way. Since it started in those first 14 years, this project has produced 104,000 pounds of food. That's, I'm sure when Mark and us sat down originally and thought about this was way beyond our expectations. The Iowa Food Bank on their website figures about, for every 1 pound of produce, it's about 3 meals. So that's been 300,000 meals that we've provided from land that otherwise would have probably just been mowed in some cases. A couple of things to keep in mind as we're going through it. The food all gets donated. Everything gets donated. That was our original focus when Mark and I and a couple other folks put this together. Everything either ends up at the Northeast Iowa Food Bank or also at the Waverly Food Pantry, which this year will be over west at the Heritage United Church. This has been done without any financial commitment, dollar-wise, to the city this whole time. So it's been a great partnership that way. And it's helped the city to get that Healthy City Award several years ago. The big challenge now is with recent increases in needs for fresh food for a lot of insecure families. It's growing. Talk to the food bank people, all the challenges they're going through, and with recent cutbacks in federal funding, it's going to make this project even more important in the future. In addition to the Waverly one, I'll also be running one at the National Research Farm. I took that one over this year too. That's another 5,000 square feet. So we should be able to produce a lot of food. And we'd like to say in passing, thank you very much for your continued support. And thank you. So.
Mr. Lent, thank you so much for all that you've done and all of the volunteers. Thank you to all those good people start to produce good, healthy, fresh food. It does prove, Waverly, we can be kind.
Thank you.
Where is the research farm?
Excuse me?
Where is the research farm?
Nashua?
Nashua. Okay.
Yeah, just a mile west and a half mile south. The whole farm's 260 acres. It was originally a demonstration garden for different varieties. And 3 years ago, change in management made that available by coincidence. I was up there on another project, so we said, yeah, we can do that. So, yeah, it'll be a handful, but we get it done.
Any other questions for Mr. Lent? Thank you very much.
Planning day will be the second Saturday in May, so Lord willing and the weather's right, we'll be there. And also our volunteer nights are Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 and Saturday mornings 8 to 10. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn now to the annual report from Waverly Chamber of Commerce and Main Street. It's a quarterly report, an update from Chelsea Peterson.
Hello, I'm Chelsea from Waverly Chamber Main Street. Just want to give you an update of what we've been busy with doing the past quarter. In January, we had a Blizzard Bucks incentive program where customers earned 1 punch for every $10 they spent at local businesses. Once they completed a punch card representing $10 or $100 spent, they were able to redeem it for $10 in Waverly dollars. I'm proud to share that through this program, we distributed over $3,000 in Waverly dollars. That means over $30,000 was spent locally in the month of January and February through this initiative. So a tremendous support to our economy and our local businesses. In March, we hosted our annual awards at Wartburg College, and we celebrated our award winners, Teat Nursery, Fidelity Bank and Trust, All In Mentoring, Darren Siefkin, Community Service, and Chuck Infeld, Lifetime Achievement. Supporting our businesses remains a top priority. I'm staying connected with the incredible support partners like Amy Dutton from the UNI Small Business Center, Main Street, Iowa, and Jackie Bolt, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. She was our speaker last week at Learn Over Lunch. Coming up on May 21st, Shop Iowa will be here for 2 exciting sessions to give our retailers the opportunity to join a free statewide e-commerce platform, and that's thanks to support from the Iowa Economic Development Authority and the Small Business Development Center. We're keeping the momentum strong, making sure that the conversations continue to happen and the opportunities are reaching our businesses to provide them the support they need during this time. Along with that, we have a new QR code initiative that, working alongside Garrett Leisure Services and Connie at Economic Development, there will be QR codes. We're going to start small and make sure that everything works as it should, but at Cedar River Park and at the soccer complex, there'll be QR codes available for guests who are here for the teams to scan. That will take them to a website that has all of the businesses and restaurants in Waverly. Just as a way to explore Waverly is the campaign, if you will. And so eventually those will hopefully be permanent at all parks throughout the city, Cedar Bend and other areas. We've identified about 15 different places for those QR codes. So they will be at the Art Walk this weekend to test the waters. We recently wrapped up a community survey in partnership with Main Street, Iowa. We'll be receiving those results soon, and we'll host a community input session here at the Civic Center on Thursday, May 8th from 5:30 to 7. The community is invited to that, as well as you guys, the council, as we learn the findings and then focus on the planning for the future of downtown and what the vision is for that. I do want to acknowledge some individuals attempted to complete the survey after it was closed. We still do want to hear from you, so please reach out by calling our office, email waverly@waverlychamber.com, or stop by our office and visit with us about any thoughts and feedback there. Following that community input session, our team and the task force that is doing this survey with Main Street Iowa will meet to begin the important work of developing evidence-based strategies for our organization to develop not only for our Main Street America visit this fall, but that'll give great guidance to not only our board, but our team at Chamber Main Street. And of course, the Art Walk is this week, and then concerts in Coleman, and let the great weather begin.
Yeah.
Any
Any questions for Chelsea?
Well, I guess it's kind of obvious to everyone that this has been another rather challenging year for downtown businesses. Just what is your impression of the atmosphere downtown with small businesses? Are they optimistic? Are they looking forward to the bridge being open? Are they pessimistic that the business won't come back? Kind of what do you get as a feeling that people are having?
Yeah, I think we can all say that we're ready for the bridge to open. You know, and it's been challenging. It's been very challenging. And so I think overall, I don't want to say create fear, but it is an unknown time. Times are difficult. The traffic isn't what it was. You know, the national legislation beyond our control, you know, is fearful as well. So, you know, just want to continue. That's why we're doing these initiatives, and I'm staying in contact with those that I have in my back pocket to, you know, offer the resources and the support and any guidance or opportunities they can to help survive during this time.
So I'm really excited about these QR codes.
Yeah.
So these
I'm not an expert.
Well, so I'm assuming these will take you to a website.
Correct.
And we can update the website regularly as necessary. So
Correct.
kind of that the QR code's kind of permanent in that that's not changing, but we have the
But the
ability to
landing
change the content regularly.
Correct, and we also
So-
have, so it'll come back to the city chamber website,
Okay.
and then through the hosting site, we can see the clicks and have the tracking and stuff for
Okay.
how many utilizations and everything that has.
Well, so we can have one version while the bridge is still closed, which is telling people how to get there, but then once the bridge is open, we can update that
Yes.
to not tell people like how to go all the way around when they don't
Right.
have to.
Yep, yep. And so just truly making sure, you know, that connector piece is something that we are trying to, you know, focus on and be for not only our businesses, but the community and the visitors and stuff. And so the concession stands are great for while they're there, but if they have 3 hours during, you know, between games, what else can they do?
Well, and we've always talked about all these, we bring people into the community, we want to have them spend their money here and spend
Exactly.
time here.
Yep.
So, of course, I think about Wartburg College and when they have, say, playoff games, when they get the NCAA tournament, like for women's basketball or football, can we find a way to get those QR codes
That-
available there?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that is definitely the goal.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I envision like clear stickers like on bleachers and things, so they don't have to be signs with QR codes, but they would be permanent.
Well, and we
And-
can see if when they print the program, if we can have
Exactly.
like a little corner where
Yep.
there's the Waverly QR code.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can be shared far and wide. Absolutely. So if you have ideas, but right now it's going to our webpage.
I want to say thank you for the new ideas. It's very exciting to see new
Great.
things coming out.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, one of the pieces of positive feedback you got when you first started was that you were going out to the businesses and talking to people, and people really liked that. How many different businesses do you visit? I know you do informal conversations, I'm sure, with people, but do you have any
Yeah.
idea how many you're seeing per month? Or how many per week do you schedule?
Trying to schedule, I mean, I'm still trying to get my feet under me, if I'm honest.
Sure, yeah.
And having a lot coming at. And so, you know, when I first started, I did hit more regularly. And so trying to establish that cadence to keep myself organized so that at least the businesses are getting, you know, a yearly annual sit-down visit, face-to-face, if not before. So I can get that.
No, just curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you've had a lot to deal with, yeah.
I just want to comment, we all know it has been challenging for the business community, but I just think that you've done everything humanly possible to try to balance that and counter the effects of the bridge being out, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you, yes, our team, we're trying.
I'd echo what Julie said. I've heard a lot of positives about
Thank you.
and the office.
Thank you. Okay. Stay safe. Get the storm. Okay, thank you.
Very much.
For the next part of our study session, we'll turn to our Director of Public Works, and let's talk about some stop-and-go lights.
This was brought to my attention, Councilperson Jones kind of prodded me a little bit on it. So there's been some discussion on some intersections in town, possibly removing some traffic signals. And me being the person that takes care of a lot of those, I'm in favor of if we can, ones that do not utilize as they should. One of the first ones, I'll jump right into it, was 15th Street and West-Bremer Avenue. That one's by the library. Most of you have been by there. There's one at 16th as well, so it's kind of redundant in that area. You seem to, the timing is difficult on some of these, where you get hit one and don't hit the other, or vice versa. So when this started, this was the one that Councilperson Jones brought to me first, and I contacted the DOT just to see what it would take, or what are the process to do something like this. They reached out to Des Moines, or their Ames office, wherever it is, and then they do a feasibility study or a warrant, if they are warranted. And when they did that, they did a couple other ones in town. So this is kind of what came back from them, just to discuss and what the possibilities are. This was one that came back not warranted. And to come to find out, since even though it is the DOT's jurisdiction, they'll make recommendations for us on what even if they're warranted, if they'd like to see them in, but they're also, there are signals. There are traffic control devices. We maintain them, we do all the work on them, so keep in mind. Just the other angle on, this one's going to 16th, I mentioned that. This one I think is very important, a lot of crosswalk, a lot of going across, even during the school day, in the morning and in the evening they have a crossing guard, but there's still a lot of visits to the library that go through there and other things. This one was not warranted as well, which I agree, this one, in my opinion, should possibly, probably stay, but I wanted to bring it up as that it was not warranted. One other option on this one would have been put a RFB, a flashing light or something in there, which to me says if you have something in place now, it's kind of important to keep it, versus putting something else new in.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to take both lights out. I think there needs to be a light there for crossing to get to the library in particular.
And that was Craig Wood's, they had a conversation after they sent out originally, and he emailed me back. He said, well, after conversation in the office, they thought that would be good to keep this one. But
Well, you also have the issue of students driving to the high school and turning left as they're heading west, turning left. I would hate to see nothing there at all. I think it would end up being, I'm sorry, forgot my mask was on, end up being kind of a demolition derby on that corner. I know a lot of people originally were concerned about how those corners would work with the lane configuration that we had. And I don't know if there's any comments from the police department, that I haven't seen a lot of accidents on that corner. And I'm trying to remember what the rationale was for putting the light in at the corner where the library is on what is that, 15th?
because there was a school there
I
at
guess
one time.
was West Cedar was.
Yeah, West Cedar.
Because of West Cedar being there? Okay. That makes sense, because, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a real reason for that light, and coordinating the lights on 15th Street and 16th Street,
Yeah.
I know can be a real problem.
And he did mention, we have some possibilities for coordination on this one. If you leave it, you could leave it green all the time unless it preempts to the south. So that means if people come from the south, you could start the cycle to change it, or if the crosswalk button's hit. So then it starts the cycle, and then basically you're acting as a crosswalk more than, and you make people stop. A flashing light doesn't make people stop, a red light
That would
does.
be my concern with
Yeah.
that, particularly with the library, because, I'd love to have it, that similar situation at Kids Kingdom, that corner, because the flashing light, people again. Flashing light, whatever.
Yeah, I like that
See
you're
it too
changing
many
the timing
times,
on
but
it,
I
where
like-
it doesn't have to cycle through, but it can have a trigger so that when someone comes from the south, that's when it triggers or someone pushes the button.
That was their recommendation, and we can preempt to the south, and the camera could pick that up, so it's possible. I'll keep going. This one is just somewhere in that area. I know it's been brought up in the past. This was the DOT's jurisdiction, has since been given to us in the early 2000s. This signal is a 1981 model. All the parts on it, controllers. We have problems occasionally on it. It's going to need some updating. It is something that the DOT doesn't, I asked them it's not their jurisdiction, but they said it doesn't warrant it in that area either. The school's gone. There's a crosswalk there. Some signage could be changed, some better painting could be done on the crosswalk that would be looked to be removed. But I think this is one of those areas that I think would be good to entertain an idea on it. I know it was put up years ago. I think
It was
probably.
put up after a classmate of mine was hit and killed
Yeah.
by a semi in probably 1978.
So what is there by way of sidewalks? I can't really see from this picture, are there,
It's on the north side of the intersection.
so there's one sidewalk that runs along the north side of that 3rd Avenue, and that's it?
Is there a sidewalk there?
Only on the east side, though.
But only on the east side, nothing on the
Yeah,
west
I
side?
don't
the
think
west
there's a
side is-
sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk?
There's no sidewalk.
Well, I'm,
There's sort of an informal path on the
Yeah.
east side going north from the
Yeah.
stoplight which gets used.
and like you said, there's really not much of a reason to have that light there for vehicular traffic. And the primary reason for the light, I think, was because of students walking over to West Cedar, so that's not in existence anymore. Is this another opportunity? Would we be able to change this to having maybe a pedestrian-initiated crossing light there?
That would be
Otherwise-
I would look at doing a RRFB, one of those flashing lights on that one. We have the power there, that's usually the hardest thing.
Okay.
We have the capability, and it's fairly inexpensive. It's gonna be a lot less expensive than fixing this intersection with updating all the
Right.
camera equipment.
Because we already have the power there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's no cameras, it's just as purely timing. So like, if you've ever been out there, it just randomly goes whenever, there's no.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. My wife has complained about that a lot. It always turns red on her when she gets to the intersections.
Well, it's like the sensor for cars coming off on 3rd, but if cars I've seen cars turn left off of 20th onto 3rd, and if they cut the corner early, they trigger it.
It's so random. I drive through this a lot.
Yeah.
And I say that a lot, so.
It's not as bad as the one by the library.
I got them at the end. Intersection, depending on what you add, is about 100,000.
Okay.
That's without any masts, any poles, anything. Cameras, the Grid Smart system. I'll detail it at the end here, but it's pretty extensive. That's why I'm jumping on the opportunity to talk about some of these.
Right.
Why are there no sidewalks there? I mean,
We just have an infill.
it's a,
That was the
one of those
trend at the time.
Yeah.
discussions to infill. We talked about that when West Cedar was there, because West Cedar didn't have necessarily sidewalks directly to it. But we hadn't put additional sidewalks in where there had not previously been sidewalks. So there's some of those neighborhoods in the first home edition, I think, also has quite a bit where there weren't sidewalks. And so to tell people to put sidewalks in that they've never had sidewalks before was kind of...
Well, I'm not even necessarily talking about putting sidewalks in the whole neighborhood, but, you know, I have seen people try to cross there, right?
There is a sidewalk at the intersection itself.
Is there?
Yeah,
Where?
that was part of the upgrades.
Like over by the Mercy One side?
Yeah, there's a crosswalk, I know there's one on the east side of the road, because there's actually a detectable feature in it, in the concrete.
Okay.
It was upgraded years ago. Condition could be probably upgraded again. Next one, this is East Bremer and 3rd Street, northeast, southeast. This actually was detailed in our traffic study that was done in, well, it was 21, that it could be removed. That was a recommendation. DOT also warranted this as could be removed. Does not meet their warrant criteria. The great thing about this one, there is the crossing beacon a little bit further down at, Sub-City. It's not that far away. This does have a newer camera on it. Some other outdated equipment still is at this intersection, but it does have a camera on it.
You can repurpose those parts, correct?
Yeah, all the parts, they're pretty much interchangeable, and actually it's a good thing now because the cameras we have, they're pretty much phasing out, so backups are good.
Here again, changing circumstances. I mean, just take a look at whether that's still appropriate to have that equipment there, because when the bridge was there, this was a major corner with a lot of traffic, but without the bridge, obviously most of that traffic's not there anymore, so it makes some sense to
The Green
take a
Bridge.
look at it. The
You
Green
mean?
Bridge.
Yeah, I forgot about that. There was other traffic coming from the south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian should be happy, you wanted this stoplight out for a long time.
Actually, it's the one on Second that I also.
Oh, the second one, okay.
So,
So here's the other way from 3rd.
yeah.
I think it's important to leave some light down there because not 100% of people stop
Yeah.
at the flashing light by Quick Star. It's iffy.
I mean, I suppose I was leaning towards taking out the one at Second Street and leaving the one at Third.
Third
Having
and
first
first.
and third.
Having First
Yeah.
and Third is where the
Yeah.
signals
Having a
were.
two-block.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
So here's the next one, is 2nd Street.
Yeah, yep.
This one also doesn't meet warrant. This was not in the traffic study for some reason. I don't know why they didn't address this one. I was surprised to see 3rd and then not this one. But I would agree, as Brian mentioned, and I had conversations with Corey and Chief Purcell, that they thought ones at the end was good, kind of to slow people down coming into town too.
Well, and I know when we have downtown events like trick or treating and whatnot, we switch off the Second Street and just have the First and Third going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that would be fine for just kind of standard protocol.
Is there any possibility, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, on these lights, if we take the traffic lights out, to have some kind of pedestrian initiated light, because it is difficult. Once the bridge opens, obviously there's going to be hopefully a lot more traffic on Bremer Avenue, and it is difficult sometimes to find space to be able to cross Bremer Avenue with traffic going in both directions. So it would be nice to have some kind of assistance.
Same as this intersection, there's power there already. A lot of those locations could be used, they might have to be oriented, moved a little bit, and a little concrete work. But it's possible to, if you want to do something similar, the RFBs like we have out there, that would, and the more you get, the more people get used to them. Education, we've been trying to push some of these things, even on Facebook and other places.
Are you talking about the RFD, the flashing yellow,
Well,
or actually having turned to red like we used to have at Second Avenue and 4th Street Southwest, and
Right,
5th Street? And
My preference would be to have the light actually turn red, but I understand that there's cost prohibitive things on that, and that the flashing yellow lights are much less expensive and probably do almost as good a job. But
We've almost talked about putting, on First Street where we got those things on the road, which I'm not a huge fan of those. They gotta be removed in the winter. but at least that makes people aware of the intersections. So then when people are there, it's a visual thing, So that's another option you could look at doing with a flashing light.
What things on the road are you talking
The
about?
yield to pedestrians.
Yeah, yield
Sign
to
goes in the middle.
The
pedestrian.
signs
Oh,
get
yeah.
10 points for hitting the sign.
I would think if you had stoplights at First and Third, you wouldn't need a red light on Second. Just
That's, I
provide
think,
the
yeah, if you took
flashing,
the second
you know,
one,
Yeah,
it would be, we still have a red light potential.
You'd have a
crossing
place to
at
stop the
First
traffic.
and
I mean,
Third.
Okay, I spend a lot of time in downtown walking through, and the number of people who can't be bothered to walk towards one end of the street or other, but cross straight through the middle, you're not ever going to be able to get everyone to go down to the intersection to cross. But people who want to feel safe crossing should have that opportunity.
Yeah.
If you have it at First and Third, that'll be plenty, so.
This Second Street is also, all the equipment's old on it. There's no camera, we have not updated anything on it, so.
So we've got a newer camera on Third, but not on Second.
Yep.
So to me, that makes more
And
sense.
same with 15th, there's no camera on 15th, nothing updated, let's put it that way.
Yeah, so those 15th West, Second East, and to Third Avenue Northwest. And those make sense to me to come out.
So how many was that? So, did you count? So there's 15th and Bremer,
The 15th and Bremer by the library.
right? 20th and 3rd,
20th and Third by the
Mercy One.
Mercy and the,
Yep.
that, and then the Second.
Yeah, okay,
Those are the
three that.
I think I agree with you, Brian, that I think First and Third, just to have kind of both ends of that essentially
Downtown area,
business
yeah.
district, downtown area, have crossings to keep it pedestrian friendly as much as we can
Yep,
down
I
there.
agree.
But take the second one out, I think that's redundant. I mean,
Would you put a pedestrian flashing light out by Mercy One?
I think so.
I think
Yeah, I like that idea.
that could.
And it makes sense out there because I don't know if it technically warrants it, but I think it's smart because you do have traffic coming in around that curve pretty fast.
Yeah. And as someone who just recently, now it takes a long time to get across the street, having some kind of flashing light that says, watch out for this slow guy walking across the street, would make me feel a lot safer.
That's what they're saying now. It's a lot of, watch out for the slow guy across the street. Must be a digital board over there.
It's more of a meme.
Configuration on 20th, touch base on that
Oh, yeah. One thing came up when discussing this with DOT, they asked about, anybody's been out here on 20th Street, Northwest Corridor?
Which one?
Where you got double stop signs, I mean?
Yeah.
Where you go to a stop sign, you go to a
No, that
stop
one,
sign?
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
The little bypass.
Coming off Bremer with the right of way off of Bremer.
The on-ramp should be the yield, and the other one should be the straight through, is how they usually orient it.
That
And
makes sense.
I don't know if there's a ton of accidents out there, but I've had a lot of close calls. I usually just stop, basically, if someone's at that stop sign. That's one I would propose in some of these changes to keep that traffic moving through there, is putting that yield with Bremer Avenue coming back onto 20th, like it should be. It's gonna have to take some pretty good signage to make people aware of the changes.
To change it, yeah.
That was one other change that came about when we were talking to them.
So you'd make the curve, people on the curve stop.
Yield.
Or yield.
Yield.
Yeah.
You have a lot better vision coming on the road.
Yeah.
Coming from that direction, because otherwise you're constantly looking back on yourself.
That's a big crank back there from 20th to back onto Bremer.
We have problems, if you can see it on that stop sign, we have a big plate over the side of it, 'cause people are stopping on the other one because it looks like it's for that one, but on the wrong side of the road.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
It's kinda-
yeah.
Could almost, I wonder if you could almost shut off the ramp for a little bit and make people go and take a right turn off of Bremer for a little while.
For a year or so, and then
For a
bring it
year to
back.
get used to
So
driving
fun to
through
run
and
that
then,
curve.
then bring the curve back as a yield.
Yeah, it's an interesting intersection, that's all I'm gonna
I
say.
don't know if that'll work.
Brent's like, yeah.
Is it possible to put
There's only so much we can do with
affordable,
drivers.
like the portable speed?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get my words out, but some sort of a temporary,
Yeah,
flashing sign there that would say.
Slow yourself down.
Just to get people used to.
MUTCD has guidelines for moving some signals, and you could use it similar to what those are for possibly moving a sign. They do have these devices that you can use to inform the public that the sign's changing or something like that.
Yeah, just switching them one night seems good.
No, you're gonna have to have some warning out there. That's what the DOT said they would do on some of the signals if this was done as well. Anything was removed, that they would have to follow, they would follow this procedure basically.
I think taking the signals out would be less confusing than having the flip at that spot from a stop to a yield.
Yeah.
To a stop the other way.
Yeah, we'd have to get some type of.
Would it be a yield, straight yield, or would it be a stop?
Usually there yields on like a merge like that.
Okay.
Is what you see.
So, yeah, I would definitely have to do something to make sure people on the ramp know that they don't have priority there, because they may just keep going, as often people do with the yield sign anyways, they just keep going.
And costs, I had one somewhere here or something. No? There were anywhere from 90 to 100,000 those intersections to upgrade them. So that's the cost associated if you leave them, which.
That's upgrading them from what they're at now to current.
Taking them down is, we'll have some costs associated with taking
Sure.
them.
With taking them down and putting in the RF, whatever.
The last RRFB we bought, the flashing light one, was right around 15,000.
Okay.
It's significantly less cost than what we do if we got to put all the other equipment into them.
Sure.
But how much will you gain in used equipment? What's the value on that?
Right now, pretty good on some of the stuff that we can use around. A controller is like 7-8 grand on one of those. Some of the boxes can be reused. I'm not saying 20th Street's going to be used, that's got its life out of that one, but some of the other ones can be used, for sure.
So the stuff that you sent us earlier today, where you had a spreadsheet in there with those costs, that was if we were to replace and upgrade these intersections?
Those are the costs of the intersections to get them basically up to what they need to be.
Okay.
Some of them are, they've got new, we're kind of grandfathered in, they got new activated for the pedestrian buttons you push. They're pushing those whenever you basically upgrade an intersection, and there's some additional costs to those. And a few other items, cameras and all that stuff, it adds up. Yeah, they say a full intersection, a mast and everything just for one traffic signal is 250,000. That to me though.
But removing a traffic signal is not without cost, but so how much would it cost to remove the signal at, say, Bremer and 2nd Street?
I bet you'd probably have a good half day at least on one signal, because we'd have Tetro assist us with the boom truck, with the city's boom truck, because it'd take a couple to get it down. But other than that, I think the first one's gonna be a little rougher, let's say. I think, those are Todd's exact words.
Figuring out how to do it?
The best way to do it.
I would say.
Now's the time to do it.
Exactly, it would make sense to do it while the bridge is still out, rather than waiting until the bridge is open and then trying to shut down traffic to take it out.
I think we have a minimum 90 days to do, cover the heads. And if you don't have any major problems, that's kind of how they process that. So if you don't have any problems, then you can go ahead and do it.
It's like a 90-day trial.
Yep.
And then, okay.
And that still applies with them flashing red like they are now? Because they're not really operable now,
they'd be straight through, so they would still probably factor in that right now. We just put temporary stops on the sides. I mean, it's kind of getting people used to it, trained, if you will.
They're used to nobody going there, it's all stopped right now, so.
Yeah, what would change is the people going east-west could go right on through.
Yeah.
And instead of now it's a 4-way stop, you would change to a 2-way stop for 90 days.
Yeah, because a flashing red means everyone's stopping.
Right. Yeah.
So, if we had them bagged in just a stop sign, people, traffic does not stop is one of the signs we got to put up as well.
Okay, that's, but I would agree 90, while the bridge is out, we're gonna do it, might as well do it.
So you just end up with stop signs for the north-south traffic. take out Second Street.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why the Appendix E was pulled from the other meeting, because if we got to add that to code, I want to do the readings once versus having to do them again in a couple of weeks,
Come
months.
back with another set.
Any other questions or comments, friends?
I just wondered if the police department has any comments about any of this? Impromptu.
Yeah, when we spoke at the meeting the other afternoon, that was all the same thoughts that have already been kind of thrown out are all things that we agree with and would support, so. I think the only thing really that I could elaborate on then is out there at 20th Street where the pedestrian, if we're gonna put something there, the curves are inherently hard to judge speed, even for our trained police officers. And so that speed limit where they're coming in and with the curve there, to give an untrained eye at a pedestrian level that opportunity to cross safely, I think would be highly recommended by chief and the rest of the police department.
And we would have the ability to change that because that isn't like a state highway or anything. We could just.
I can't speak to that, councilperson.
Okay.
I think it's ours.
It's
It's
ours.
ours.
It's ours.
Okay.
Do you see a lot of issues at 16th by the daycare center?
I would highly recommend keeping 16th. Okay. Yeah. Just the other day, like we had the DARE graduation at the middle school, and they had their wellness day a week later after that, where you're having an entire grade's worth of children walking and crossing, and they asked for police department support to help with that traffic control. And our guys ended up on one of those occasions had a call for service that they had to go respond to, and so they weren't able to be there. But to have, is it Mr. Gabi that does traffic control in the afternoon? In a similar fashion, a teacher operating the crosswalk and hitting the button was very, very beneficial. So I think we would be in favor of keeping 16th as well.
Okay. Thanks.
The only other, and this isn't, this could be more for Justin, any discussion with the DOT about Cedar River Parkway and Bremer Avenue on the east and 10th Avenue and Heritage Way on the west?
From what
Getting any kind of-
they've done studies, and it still does not warrant any devices out there. We've had numerous conversations with them about it. I think the one on Heritage Way you'll see something sooner there than you would on the east side.
Really?
Well, that's the one that's got the sun blind spot for a good portion of the year.
By the Red Fox?
By the Red Fox there.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
a
know. At least you can
definite blind
see
spot.
to the left and right where you can't at
Yeah.
the Highway 3. Have there been any accidents out there, Highway 3 and?
At Heritage?
Yeah, no, at the,
Eastern.
the east side.
Cedar
River
Parkway.
Parkway and
Cedar River
Highway 3.
Parkway and 3.
Out by
We've had a
Teets.
few during this construction period, but not a ton.
Okay.
Most of those, through looking at those police reports, very few of them had anything to do with the way the intersection was designed.
Okay.
It had more to do with just operator error.
Okay.
All
So
right.
it sounds like we have sort of a consensus to take out the Second Street, the one by Mercy One, and then the,
Yeah, those three,
by the library.
the 450.
I'll start the process.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thanks.
With the one bar by
By Mercy
Mercy
One.
One, yeah, the pedestrian flashing.
Alrighty.
All right. James, you want to give us an update on the Washington-Irving site?
Sure. We have spent a great amount of time going through more old records than I ever wanted to, whether it's in the vault or other desks or, it's a lot of stuff. But we have found that I think we are clear to go forward. We don't think there's any restrictions that are there. We've found where the money came from when we bought it. Pages here from zoning as well. We'll get to her in a second on some of the issues, but we're clear to go forward. And so our main goal tonight is for all of you to make a decision or two, because until you do, this is really a moot point. Part of it's gonna be the zoning. What are you willing to zone it to? I don't think planning and zoning has much of an appetite to change the zoning as it sits, but that's something you decide, not them. They recommend. And then depending on what you're willing to zone it to, will determine on what you're willing to accept in that zoning. And until that's really known, we have nowhere to go with this, because then we're back 5 years ago where we're hoping somebody brings a plan without any idea what's gonna happen or go through, and it's really a waste of our time. So that's our goal tonight, is to determine those two things. I don't care how we want to tackle them. We can go one by one, but we need some kind of consensus how to move forward, or else we're not able to really approach any kind of developer with an idea of what they would or would not be able to do. So I don't know, Paige, if you want to come up as well, we'll kind of walk through
So James,
zoning.
when you say we're good to go, it's from a flooding standpoint?
Yep.
Okay.
We've looked at the capability of the area for water sewer. We've looked at the potential impact on the dry run. I don't think there really is much since it's drained in there anyway. All that's been kind of considered. So currently we are,
And the deed restrictions.
Right.
I know that was one that Brian had
Okay.
asked to look up, so
Okay.
that's all clear.
so we're currently
Okay.
R2.
Yep.
And remind us all what R2 is.
If you would give a quick page, what would R2 provide us? What would be allowed in an R2 zoning currently?
So R2, you can look at single family, attached single family, or two family.
What's attached, single family versus single family?
Condos, two separate
okay.
Like a-
owners,
a
but
du-
with
a
a common
duplex.
law.
With a common law.
Basically a duplex, yes. You've got a condo agreement between, or covenants between the two,
Okay.
rather than a duplex, a just plain two-family is built a little differently.
Gotcha.
And what about height restrictions?
Height restrictions is 35 feet or 2 stories, whichever is less. Those dwellings have to be, if they're just 1 story, they have to be 25 foot wide for the majority of the structure. If you're going 2 stories, you can go a 20 foot wide structure.
So 25 feet wide if it's single story?
Yep.
And 20 feet if it's, okay.
So when we've talked about townhomes, would that fit in C2?
R2?
No.
R2, it's R2?
No, R2 only allows up to 2 connected.
Okay.
You would
So-
have to bump up to an
At least
R3.
R3.
Could be 2, 3, or 4 units connected.
Okay.
R3 also is nice because it allows a cluster home development. So
Okay.
you could still do single family, you could still do 2 family or single family attached. That's kind of what Anna Estates. It's a condo regime. Same thing with Maple Hills up here on Bremer Road, the curve. That's an R3 as
Okay.
well. You don't have the specific lot lines in an R3. Setbacks for R2 is 20 in the front and back and 7.5 on the sides.
And what is it for R3?
You said 20 front and back?
Yes. 25 for front and back for an
So
R3.
it's actually more in R3.
Same on the sides?
It's the same as the sides. Yep. The front and back on this lot, I don't think is going to be as big of an issue as the sides
Yeah.
with the triangle that you've got.
Sure.
So R3 basically gets us more together in a single row. You don't get any taller, it's still 2-story, it's still the same height, but there's more options, what can be done going forward. To get the traditional townhomes that we talk about with the garage 2-story, that has to go to R4. And that's more of an open, pretty much whatever you want can go in R4, and that's what makes people so nervous about that. But that is what gets you a 3-story building, which is more your traditional townhomes that you see in Ankeny and Cedar Falls and all these other areas, 2, 3, 4 in a row. It's not like the 10-plexes that we see. That's possible, that's not something we would want to promote. There would be more of a cottage row of houses, 2 or 3 at a time, together, just taller.
And 3-story, you mean with a basement? And then 2 stories, or you mean 3 stories above
3
ground?
stories above ground, because you're not gonna want basements in a lot of this area. So that gives you a garage underneath, a 2-car, instead of out front, where it's all you're gonna see.
Oh, I see.
And then 2 above, which is, again, very common through most cities you're gonna look at. We just don't have them here.
And what are the height restrictions on that?
3 stories or 45 feet. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the key, is if you want the garage, it's nice to go up rather than,
Your entire front's a garage, and there you are. But we have some of that around town too. So, but either way, the issue is you're at R2 now, and to get to more than 2 together, which would be a little more density, you have to go to R3.
and I think when it was, there used to be individual lot lines on this property. We went through and removed those several years ago, I think,
Right.
for that intent, that you were probably gonna upzone it to an R3. I don't know if the thought was going to R4 at that point, so you didn't need individual lots. You could just put multiple buildings on one lot.
Right.
So if we go back to an R2, then we as a city are probably going to have to pay to have those lots developed again.
So tell me the difference again between an R4 and an R3.
Your biggest difference is the 2-story to 3-story.
Okay.
You're looking about the same setbacks. You're 15 to 20 feet between the buildings still as a minimum. The height difference is the biggest.
But these could be like, 4 attached buildings, like 3 or 4 attached buildings. So kind of the gap, the side lots, they're touching each other, so
Right,
there's no
right.
side lot.
And an R4, yeah, technically you can put a 10-plex on there. However, the council's gonna be the one selling this lot. So we can put that restriction when we sell the lot.
You
that
control
it's not
this since you
allowed.
own
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
and that's
we
what
can
makes
still
it a little
control that
easier.
density.
So do you have any idea how tall the houses are across the street?
I think when we discussed it, planning and zoning, a lot were a story and a half to 2 stories.
Okay.
And we could also control that this would never become rental property. This would always be owned
Yeah,
property.
Owner occupied.
Right, yep, there's different ways to do that. And I think looking at this piece of land too, your R3, your little higher density is in that transitional district. You've got Bremer Avenue, you've then got this lot kind of right behind the commercial, and then you go into the lower density. So it kind of follows that transition you like to typically see.
And so did P and Z already talk about this recently?
Not formally, we had a discussion of kind of what their comfort level would be, and they just don't seem to be wanting to rezone it. They cited density, which I think is, I'm gonna say, I think is ridiculous, because you can get as many duplexes in there as you can townhomes. So it's not gonna save you either way, whether you rezoned or not. You can still put in almost the same number of houses. It's just not as efficient use of property when you have it going up versus big garages in the front, that's all you have.
And how about construction costs? Any thoughts about, R3 versus R4 versus R2? Because we're trying to make these sort of entry level.
Right, you do townhomes, the per unit cost is typically gonna be cheaper than a single-family detached home. If you can get a couple of them connected together.
Is there any potential of developing the properties to the north of the dry run? Or are we just talking about the triangle?
No, just the south of the dry run.
Just the triangle?
Yep.
Not the,
Right, those are flood buyout lots, to the north of there.
You know, I'm going to go back to Brian Schoen's recommendation that he made a couple weeks ago, that we have a committee that takes a look at making a proposal what would be best for that area. And if we need to do some rezoning or make some changes to some of the zoning laws to fit what it is that we want to do, then we bring back to the council and say, hey, we need to do this to get in what we want to do. Rather, I think we're going at this from the back door rather than the front door, of saying, well, let's rezone this and throw it out there and see what some developer will do. We have the opportunity here of owning this property and being able to put on it what it is that we want to put on it, be imaginative and have this do what we want to do as far as the housing needs for the city of Waverly. So I think that making a decision on the board level, I mean, on the council level, and then saying that, just kind of throwing it out there is not the appropriate way to advance this. What we need to do is do what Brian suggested, and that was have a group made up of maybe the council, planning and zoning, a couple of other people, and say, okay, what do we want to see built on this property? And what do we not want to see built on this property? Make a recommendation, and then when we have a solid recommendation, then come to the council and say, this is what we want to do, this is what we need to do as far as rezoning, this is what we need to do as far as, lot lines and all of that kind of stuff. Because this is going to take something that is probably a little unique for the city of Waverly and isn't going to fit in with some of the things that we've already done. So I would prefer to follow his suggestions rather than make any decision on this myself until we have an idea of what it is that we want to see there. Whether it be townhomes, whether it be apartment buildings, whether it be, we've heard discussion about small home developments, we've heard discussion about the prison houses. There have been all kinds of things that have been thrown out. And I think that those all need to be investigated and say, hey, what do we want to see in this area? what's possible, what can we do, and how can we make this project happen. The other thing, and I'm going to keep bringing this up, is that this is this is a development that will be happening in the middle of an already established neighborhood. It's a little different than having something out on the edge of the town where it's virgin ground and we're building $400,000 homes, or we're building townhomes, or we're building apartments or whatever on this virgin ground. This is like tearing down 6 homes in Hickory Heights and saying we're going to build an apartment building here. It takes a little bit more sensitivity when you're doing a development in the middle of an already developed neighborhood. So I think that if we look at it a little bit more deeply, have a small committee, commission, whatever you want to call it, that makes a proposal back to the council that says this is what we think is going to be best for that property, I think that's the best way to go forward.
I see your point, Rod, but the council is itself by definition a small committee, 7 people, and it brings representation from the whole town.
Maybe so, but the council is the one that makes the decisions.
Yes,
The council's not the one that plans housing developments. The council makes a decision, is this what we want to go forward with? My point is that we do not have the expertise as the 7 people sitting up here saying, what is possible as far as housing developments in this property. So what I would like to see is a proposal that comes forward, just like the proposal we're expecting from the 117 engineers, the 117 building engineers, that says, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, this is how much it's going to cost. I'd like to see that from a group of people that have some expertise in this that says, this is what we can do, given what your plans are, what your goals are for this property, this is what we can do, this is what it'll look like, this is what it'll cost, use the resources we need. Rather than trying to do this here at the council, at a council meeting, where we have a chance to do an up or down vote. We do that, I'm going to vote no. I'll always vote no.
Well, we're not anywhere near a vote,
I hope
right?
not.
What do we don't even know what we're voting on. But I do
Well, we're not
think,
voting on it because it's not a business
well,
meeting,
right,
but-
so we're not voting. But I think it's important maybe for the council to say to our commission, if we do have a subcommittee, hey, here's what we don't want, right? We want to use it efficiently. I think we learned from the last process that people don't like change, right? That's human nature. But I think we have, as a council, because we're revisiting this, are saying we need some change. We need some housing. We need some creative ideas. I think as long as we can control, right, the number of townhomes, if we decide to do townhomes that are strung together, I think that's going to be the big sticking point. They do not want a row of townhomes over there. That was made clear. I don't think it's similar to Hickory Heights because there aren't houses there. I mean, there was a school there. That was traumatic, I think, for everybody to lose that school. The whole flood was traumatic. But I think we should at least give them some guidance about what don't we want. And have we had any developers, any builders sniffing around about this project? Or have you talked to anybody informally? Yeah?
Nobody wants to discuss it based on the last time you had the discussion, because you don't give any direction
Because
on
we
what it
went
is.
nowhere.
And with all
Yeah.
due respect, who would sit on this commission that has more knowledge than our own
Yeah.
staff, you as a council? I don't know where you're gonna pull these people from the community that have this knowledge that any more than you do.
Mm-hmm.
Then the idea of single-family homes is just cost prohibitive to do.
If you want a reasonable size
Three or four
garage.
houses in there, or 6 houses, or whatever you might be able to get in.
I think the one
it's-
thing we learned last time is the people who live around here would like it to stay green space forever.
Right.
Because they
That's not
like having
exactly
empty
correct.
I don't
space.
think
That's
I
not
ever
correct.
got that impression.
No.
I got the impression that they're not excited about homes, they like having green space. A lot of them, even if it's just a place to go run around. I mean, they were talking about community gardens, they were talking about recreational space. I think that given the choice between houses and green space, 90% of them would just like to keep the green space. And I think that as city council, we have to make a decision that they're not going to get what they want. That we want to fill that in with houses.
Well,
Now,
my impression was they didn't want the townhouses, row houses kind of look
right.
block type thing.
that they would have preferred more family homes similar to what
I think they were
else is in
hoping
the
for single-family
neighborhood.
houses that were built in the 1950s,
Well,
that, you could get for $150,000.
Which is not,
Which, yeah.
that's what I want to know, just how cost prohibitive is that? Would there be, I mean, they're obviously not going to be 150,000.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what doomed the project was the picture, the example that got
I know,
put
it never
in
should
the
have been
packet,
showed. We didn't
which
authorize that
wasn't
to be
really what we were
showed.
planning, which looked like a row of ugly townhomes with absolutely no character. And so they were hoping for something that would fit in mainly with the aesthetics of across the street, because if you go to the south, everything's different. There's no set construction design, right? And so they did prefer, a lot of them, green space. Nobody uses that green space.
Right.
That I've seen, right? And so, and they have Memorial Park 2 blocks to the south.
Yep.
I think they were also worried about renters, about, Warburg students being rented to and trashing houses, which is a problem to the north of that neighborhood especially, right? So they were worried about that. So I think we can control and have just owner-occupied houses. We can control how many things are attached together. I think if we want to use the space efficiently, I mean, I would be in favor of like 2 to 3 clusters of 2 to 3 townhomes, either the 3-story or the 2-story. People do need a garage.
Yeah.
Well, preferably
If we don't
covered.
provide garages, then they're going to be complaining about how there's no street parking.
Exactly, and
So I think we do have an obligation.
I think there were
Or else
issues
it's
raised
outside the
about
house.
sewage,
Right.
right? Could a new townhome development, could the sewer handle it? Well, it handled Irving School with a bunch of
Yeah.
adolescents who were pooping, so I think it can handle it, right?
Yeah.
So there were all sorts of issues, but I think, me personally, I would favor, something like 3 attached, 3 to 4, tastefully designed. There's some beautiful designs if you go to West Des Moines that look like the old-fashioned sort of brownstone type developments. And so I'm not opposed to that. I don't think the line of 10 townhomes is going to fly. It's not going to
That
fit,
was never
probably.
the intent.
So
I know.
if this is going to be planned by city staff, what city staff is taking the lead on this, so I'll be able to visit with them about it?
Right here.
I would say you and
Absolutely.
Paige, probably the
Okay,
people in
office
the
open
room.
anytime, Rod.
All right, I will be there.
And to do what Ann's saying, we would need to zone it what?
R4, I think,
R4.
so that we could have that garages.
Well, for the 3-story.
For
If
the
you wanted the
3-story,
garage
yeah.
in front with the 2-story, it'd be R3. If you wanted more than 2 together.
It'd have to go, it's currently 2, it'd have to go to 3 or 4.
I'll go
But
with
you
that.
could put,
And we
if you
don't get
did,
into a spot zoning type of situation.
Has anyone ever-
if you did R4,
I'd
that
be-
would give you
I'd be
all
willing to
those
support
options.
R4.
Yes.
Has anyone looked at
It's been
Smithfield?
17 years since the flood. I think it's time to move on and develop the space.
And R4 gives us a lot of options, and we have the final veto
You
power.
control it all, so yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
I think it's important to emphasize in our discussions and make sure that the public in general, but particularly that neighborhood, knows that whoever comes up with the ideas is going to approach this from a creative standpoint then. And I feel like that's where we really fell down last time, was that, like you guys have said, they were just picturing, standard townhomes with cars everywhere because there's no room for them to be parked in a garage and stuff like that. If we go R4 so that we can get tuck under garages, we don't have to worry about on-street parking, we don't have to worry about tons of vehicles sitting around that are gonna be unsightly, and we make sure that everybody knows we're not just gonna go willy-nilly into this, we're gonna be creative about it to make sure that it's something that does the neighborhood justice.
Well, it gives you all options, right?
Yes.
So if a developer comes in and says, hey, it's cheaper, less expensive for you to do tiny homes, or for us to do the prison houses or whatever, you can put that under R4, can't we?
Yeah.
And
So-
we, as the property owners, we could say, no, we don't like that idea, we're not gonna,
Yeah, we can veto anything that
Right.
anybody presents to us, I suppose, because we're the,
it's not like we're
Although
selling the
I-
property and then the developer does whatever they want.
I do
No.
think it's still important for us to kind of give direction if
Yeah,
we want people to
yeah,
commit to
yeah.
this. I mean, if people are afraid that anytime they come up with an idea, we're just going to veto it, that's
Right.
not going to encourage
Right.
people to
Right.
try to be creative. I think the more direction and explanation we give, the more likely is we'll get developers who are interested in kind of helping us with that vision.
Have we looked at anything other than townhomes? You know, compare the number of people who you could cram into a townhome with some alternative kind of design.
Well,
I mean,
looked
we're
at
looking
the-
at small home villages, we've been looking at cluster homes, you know, those kinds of things. Have any of those been looking at? I mean, we can get 2 more families in, is it worth it to have this? This isn't a very large development, we're talking about maybe 6 or 7 or 8 housing units at the most, you know, that we're going to be able to get in here. It's not like we're going to have 70 or 80 housing units in here. So let's be realistic about what we can get in here and not say, okay, this housing project is going to satisfy all of our housing needs, because it's not. What we want to do is try to make the best compromise between what we need to have for housing, which is affordable housing, I think we all recognize that, something between $150,000, $200,000, hopefully, with maybe a city buy-in for first-time homeowners, and what the sensibility of the neighborhood is. And we can find that sweet spot. And you're wrong, Brian, the people there, yeah, of course they would like to live next to a green space, of course they would. But I think they all realize that's not realistic. I mean, we all know that you don't, when there's property like that that's going to be developed.
I don't think anyone's making the case that this is going to solve our housing problems either. I mean, I think that's a fake argument. That's a straw man argument. Yeah, so I think that trying to form a commission like you're talking about is going to cost the city money. I mean, the study of the water building is something we're going to pay for. If we wanted to do a study like you're talking about, a commission with engineers and planning, that's going to be something we're going to have to put money into to get a study to come up with a plan, and that's not even guaranteeing that we're going to like the results of that study.
Okay, well, we'll drop that idea, okay?
But I mean, I
And
think...
I'll get together with James and Mark, and
absolutely.
we'll work out on a piece of scratch paper and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's all we're asking is give the staff some direction about what we can do. But I think we want to do something.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and I think
Well,
you give a developer some flexibility, right?
Right.
So we have a piece of property, and it seems like if we zone it R4, then a developer who knows how to build houses can say, okay, well, let's look at tiny houses, let's look at townhomes, let's look at duplexes. When we have a cost goal, it gives them more options, I would think. If we haven't given them any direction about how it's going to be zoned, then how are they going to know what to present us with, right?
Well, I think it helps when we can
So-
say, these are things we don't want.
Yeah.
You know, if we can say, we don't want
And these
10
guys know what we don't
across the
want, because
way.
we've said that, you know,
Yeah.
so.
And at R2, we don't have any developers coming in saying we want to build something.
No, which are.
And I also worry about which developers are going to put on your subcommittee, right? How are you
Yeah,
going to
absolutely.
decide who's on your subcommittee and who's going to be unhappy because they didn't get chosen for the subcommittee?
Yep.
This way, if you put it out there, say, look, anybody, come in and visit with us, we want to hear creative ideas. And we're open to hearing just about anything at this point, but yes, here's what the council doesn't want, a bunch of, plain, ugly townhomes, 10 in a row, we do not want that. We do not want rental housing.
Well, we don't want rental housing, I think it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about this, could we turn this back to the staff again for a while, let them come back with some 2 or 3 viable options?
I suppose the question is, does
Well,
this...
I'd like to, I think we ought to put a vote of how we're going to zone it,
We
honestly.
can't officially do that.
We can't do that today.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, not today,
I
but,
suppose the question is, does the staff feel like they have enough directions from us?
I do.
Okay.
So can I say something?
Please.
yes,
bet.
of course you may.
So I drive every day from my house to work now because I have to go around because of the bridge. By right across from St. Mary's, where on that corner, there's that weird semicircle of houses that are going up right now, and they look like little single one
Over by the water
bedroom,
tower.
1 bedroom houses. I don't think they're connected at all.
Bremer Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's kind of a similar plot of land, and I just think they've already got the first house almost finished on the outside.
Yep.
And I don't know how they're gonna fit that many houses in that little section.
Yeah.
But I see that as a starter home for somebody versus, when I think of townhouse, I think of rentals.
Right.
And like I said, driving by there, either an elderly person that wants to downsize or a brand-new married couple that wants to start a new home, that's what I think of, are those little tiny homes that you know you're not gonna raise a family in, but you're gonna start your footing there when you build your life.
How is that zoned?
That's R3.
That's R3.
So yeah, that's the Maple Hills condos.
So there's the water tower.
And I think,
There's
you know, I
senior
think you make a good
cemetery.
point, and I also think in
It's
other
just-
towns,
it's
other
like-
cities, you'll see things that look like townhomes, but are, you
houses
know,
going in there.
just the family lives in there, right? In a more urban setting where you're trying to
Downtown Bremer Avenue
make
down
the
here.
most out of expensive property, right?
And the people that live in that neighborhood would be less offended by that, I think, than apartments in town.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so do we have a consensus? Turn this back to staff, they'll come back to us when they're prepared. Is that, are we there?
Yeah. If they feel like they have enough guidance.
They have more than enough.
Too much.
We're good. That's what we thought we would get.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, Paige.
move
Thanks,
forward.
Paige.
James, do your staff have updates?
I'm sure we do. Go ahead, Garrett.
Yep, so this last Saturday, we had a great event out at the All-Inclusive Playground. A lot of people showed up, good representation of the council, good representation of the Leisure Services Commission as well. So thank you to those who were able to come out, and thank you to the public who was able to come out as well. There was just over 300 burgers, brat patties, and hot dogs served. So and I just want to mention again that Soft Surfaces took care of the tab for that, and it was all made by the Kiwanis. So thank you to them as well. And then Art Walk, May 3rd, this coming Saturday. So be sure to come out to Art Walk as well. Thank you.
That's all we have tonight, sir.
City council comments? Councilperson Bergen.
So last week, we had our public comments from a number of ministers in town. And I really wanted to say two things in response to the comments they made. The first is that I disagree with their premise. I disagree with the idea that we should not be a welcoming community for all different types of people. I understand that they have their moral convictions, but I believe that those moral convictions do not represent everyone in this community. And I think it is very important for us to be a welcoming community. That said, I want to say I 100% support their right to express their opinion. I am a firm believer in the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, and while I don't agree with their opinions, I will defend their right to speak their opinions. So people who say they don't want to hear that, they have the right to speak their opinion, and this is an appropriate venue for doing that. So those are my thoughts on that. Anyone who wishes to discuss city council business, I will be at the poorhouse afterwards.
Thank you. Councilperson Jones.
Nothing.
Councilperson Myers.
Just a reminder to be weather aware tonight. It's the season.
Sure is. Councilperson Kingus.
I was just going to check with the amount of precipitation we've had in the last week, 2 weeks. Bridge construction, have we had any issues with that?
It hasn't been a lot since it's underwater, part of it, so we're waiting on an update or so. I don't think it'll be necessarily a positive one, but we're gonna know kind of soon where everything's at and go from there.
Councilperson Draco.
Yeah, it's nice to have the rain, but, you know, maybe dry out for a few days so we can get the bridge done, and then it can rain again.
Councilperson Ruthie.
I'll just second what Brian said. And also, it's Make Way for Goslings on Cedar Lane. So please be careful when you're zipping around there, they're attempting to cross the road.
Or don't zip around.
Don't zip around there, don't zip.
Councilperson Wolf.
I just want to thank everybody for the positive, not the positive, but the
Affirming?
yes, the affirming responses to last week. There is a lot of community support for the Glow Float. Like I invited the people who spoke out to the next Human Equity and Diversity Commission, I invite the general public, anyone who supports that to attend. And it's May 13th 5:45 here.
Thank you, guest councilperson Pentecost. What you got?
I just want to plug an event that I have nothing to do with whatsoever, but it's something new and neat. And so the Rotary Club here in Waverly, this Thursday night at Frederick's, they have teamed up with Waverly Shell Rock Schools and local businesses, and they're doing a fashion show for a fundraiser. They're trying to start like a community cupboard for families that are food insensitive. And the staff from the school, including my gorgeous wife, are gonna be the models, and then the local businesses are donating the clothes for them to wear for the fashion show. And like I said, I have nothing to do with it, but I think it's just a cool event to tie everything in town together, so.
And that's this Thursday.
This Thursday at Frederick's, I think at 4:30. I think it's $25 to get in, and then they have some light hors d'oeuvres and stuff.
Nice, that's a great idea. Okay, we got a lot going on. As Garrett said, we've got an art walk this Saturday with 40 vendors. Simultaneously, the farmer's market opens up, and there are some new vendors at the farmer's market. I'm looking forward to, there's someone there selling cake and barbecue and all kinds of good stuff. That'd make a great lunch because you went to pancake breakfast with the firefighters. The bookmobile will be out at the art walk. The college is hosting the Try-By-Night. So hope we'll bring a whole bunch of folks from town. There's a big soccer tournament that's going to bring a whole bunch of tourists into town. The Chamber of Commerce is hosting the Spring Retail Open House downtown. All these things are happening on Saturday. So we'll have lots of tourists, and it'll hopefully be really busy downtown, and that's just really great stuff. So, all that being said, Waverly, be kind. I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second. You can't second it.
Okay. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.